Good evening, Dogg from Air fans. I had an epiphany today, and I wanted to share it in the interest that it would help someone on whatever stage of their life journey they may be. So yesterday, I had a conversation with a woman who told me she had read a newspaper headline which claimed that there was some percentage of the American population which believed in the quote-unquote deep state. And I had a quibble over the word belief, because belief implies faith, and when there is knowledge, concrete knowledge, we do not need to believe in anything. And we have quite a lot of knowledge, historical knowledge, to prove that there are things going on beneath the surface in regards to politics, etc. I asked her what that percentage was. She could not remember, but lucky for you, I looked it up, and it was from a poll by the Washington Post and ABC News. The number is 48%. Interestingly, it's roughly the same number for both Republicans and Democrats. Interesting. Why? Because it recalled to my mind a recent poll by Emerson University, which found somewhat the opposite. They found that in regards to the question, do you believe that the news is truthful, 69% of the Democrats agreed that they believed that the news was truthful, whereas only 9% of Republicans believed the same. So in my opinion, I have to say that believing the news media and disbelieving in something called the deep state are the same thing, since the media labels anyone who disagrees with their narrative a, quote, conspiracy theorist. Now, lately I've been observing on the interwebs a countervailing insult called the coincidence theorist, which I quite enjoy. But I digress. I'm going to get onto my epiphany. So, imagine you're going along studying history. For example, you're studying the Founding Fathers, and you find that so many of them were Freemasons. How many? Well, I looked it up. 15 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons. 28 of 40 signers of the Constitution were Freemasons. So what does that mean? What is Freemasonry, and what does it mean if someone is a Freemason? This is where people start calling you a conspiracy theorist. However, my epiphany was this. Even if we found that so many of the Founding Fathers were members of the Hello Kitty fan club, it would be necessary to understand what the Hello Kitty fan club was, what sorts of activities its members engaged in, and if or how membership affected their outlook on life. So in this case, and many other historic examples, we find that membership in one or more secret societies is a commonality shared among influential people. Now I'm going to turn to the natural sciences for some examples of how researchers use commonality to increase their understanding of the world around us. First, bees, I will observe, have black and yellow stripes. I will observe, secondly, that bees sting. So therefore, if I see something flying around with black and yellow stripes, I might avoid it. If it's behind you, I might say, "Eek, a bee!" And you will not call me a conspiracy theorist. Despite this fact, not all flying insects with yellow and black stripes are bees. In fact, some insects have evolved yellow and black stripes to mimic the bees and their sting in order to fool predators. Another color-based analogy might be yellow flowers. I might assume that all yellow flowers have the same growing requirements. Now, this is probably not a true assumption, but it is testable. In other words, it is a testable hypothesis. I could grow many different yellow flowers in similar growing conditions and measure their growth to see if it is the same in all cases. That is not such a useful commonality, but we have found that the plants which are blue and purple are blue and purple because of a group of chemicals called anthocyanins, which have been shown to have a myriad of beneficial effects on the human body. In fact, there is lots of evidence to support the notion that including a variety of colors of food in one's diet can help to ensure complete nutrition. So in science, we have a procedure. First, we observe something going on in the natural world. Second, we form a hypothesis about what that observation means. Third, we perform experiments to determine if our hypothesis about that observation is correct. And now I'm going to turn to some examples from the literature. In 1753, James Lind observed that sailors in the British Navy who consumed limes on a daily basis did not fall victim to the dreaded scourge known as scurvy. In response, he developed what became to be known as the first controlled trial, in which he gave some sailors limes and other sailors no limes. From this trial, he found that yes, citrus fruits of various kinds contained some sort of ingredient which prevented scurvy. And this is why the British Navy no longer falls victim to scurvy. In 1798, a man named Edward Jenner observed that milkmaids who fell afflicted with a disease known as cowpox, which resulted in sores forming on their hands, did not fall victim to the much more virulent disease known as smallpox. Taking this information, he conducted an experiment where he knowingly infected a small boy with the cowpox goo and observed that the boy did not fall victim to smallpox. And this was the first vaccine. Next, in 1847, a man named Ignaz Semmelweis observed that when his doctors washed their hands after performing autopsies, the patients they would see next did not die. He was committed to an insane asylum and beaten to death by the guards 2 weeks later. I don't know. So in conclusion, it has been often observed that humans are adept at pattern recognition. We have a model called the scientific method, which has resulted in indisputable improvements in the quality of life for the great number of people. We are using generalization. We are finding commonalities and trying to figure out whether or not we can use those commonalities in other instances. So, for example, if we see a man wearing a blue uniform and a star badge on his chest, we know that we can go to him for help. This is a useful generalization. So my question is, when we apply this same method to historical research, why is there resistance? Why do people resort to name-calling and magical thinking? Why do we allow the activity of all kinds of secret societies, from Freemasons to the Bilderberg Group to the Old Boys Club, to continue unexamined? Well, that's it for this evening's edition of Dogg from Air. Hope to see you next time.